This video is made for adult collectors because Star Wars or something.
Oh god.
Did they do it? Did they finally get a crossover toy without any of the crossover jank? Well, let's just get into that question. This isn't the first time Star Wars crossed over with Transformers. In the past, they've done 40 figures? Damn. But there were a lot, and they weren't the greatest. A lot suffered from gold plastic syndrome-like symptoms, and they were just awkward. Then you had the 2017 ones that were neat, but a bit weird, and now they brought it back with The Mandalorian in 2025. I hope they reissue this for when the film drops next year, because it'd be weird if they didn't. But anyways, this is the Mandalorian N1 Starfighter, and it turns into a robot. I love the design of the Naboo ships, and I'm kind of glad they went with this over the Razor Crest, even though I do like the Razor Crest a lot too. This is just more up to date with what's going on in the show. I really dig how this looks. The scratches and scuffs, the bits of yellow. Damn, I wish they would do one of these like one day in a full silver and yellow deco. I wish the gray wasn't so gray. Like it matches the film pretty okay for not being silver, but it is just full of gray. They nailed the shaping, all the angles and lines and curves and the lack of under kibble. Like it is clean under there. And the sculpting, the engine details on the side with the exposed cabling and like pipes, and then the top section with the gunmetal and the guns on the front are nicely painted. It also feels nice and solid. Everything pegs together very well and the plastic feels fine. It doesn't come with a Grogu though, and that does bother me a little bit. I feel like, especially for the price, this should have included like a Baby Yoda, especially because it's got an opening cockpit for Grogu to sit in, and this also becomes the pram. Apparently the vintage collection Grogu fits, but I don't have one of those, and I don't want to go spend like what, $20 on one. Back to the things I like though, all of this stuff. You get so much here that interacts with the figure. This cape piece that wraps around the stand to make it look more robust, which then plugs into the bottom of the ship. These clear plastic pegs on the side here do kind of scare me a little bit, but so far they're feeling strong. And then all the new blast effects. 4 pointy ones of various lengths, and then these 2 chunky ones. The chunky ones can slide onto the engines here, and then the tips can get covered by the pointy ones. Then you can take the remaining 2 pointy ones and plug them in on the front. I love how everything plugs into the ship. Nothing has to be off to the side. Basically, he comes with a lot of stuff that all has a place to go, and I really like that. It's also a nice size. Oh, and the box here, it looks great. So this is a pretty unique transformation. It does some stuff that I don't think I've ever seen before, especially in the torso. It like kind of works in an interesting way to swing around. There is some parts forming that these do become stuff. You've got his gun right here. That is his actual rifle. And this actually does become the pram, which does clip onto the stand, but I'll talk about that a little later. But once you've removed that, we need to re-angle the camera so I can fit the whole thing in frame. There it is. You take the front section here and you're going to open it up. Just open this section up there and there. It's kind of funny how like the hood opens. I know the engines are on the side, but it would have been nice if the back of the head had some like engine detail or inner working detail. So when you open this up, you could be like, oh, they're working on the ship, but it's just his head. And you flip his head out. You don't close that back up. Don't do that. You want to take these side sections here and bring them out, and then rotate this section 180 degrees towards the back. Then you want to close this up here and then fold these in. Once you've done that, you take the arms, we're going to rotate them 180 degrees and leave them down there for now. You want to take this section, bring it up. You're going to fold these panels in. Then you're going to fold this panel out. Then as you're bringing this down, you're going to accordion it in and then rotate this as you're folding it to then peg in underneath the neck. That's cool. I like how that just sort of goes whoop and into place, just twisting up. It's so easy. Now this, you've got these little like holes right here, those little gaps. That's what's going to peg into the shoulders, not this bit sticking out. Because I originally thought it was just like this. I'm like, oh, why did the arms not peg in? It's because you got to shift it in more. Now they are extremely robust. So you got to make sure it goes in and then clicks into place. Then we're going to take the hands, open these sections up, flip out the hands, close that up. Open this section up, flip that out, close it up, and that's the upper body done. So the lower body, we're going to rotate the waist. Mine's a little loose, but I can fix that. The instructions, they are not very clear on what you're supposed to do here. So you split the legs, you fold this peg up, then you take the whole entire foot assembly on this brown piece and flip it all the way out to the back. That's where the instructions kind of don't tell you what to do. The way that the pictures look, it looks like you're supposed to accordion the legs down. You're not supposed to do that. Instead, you just bring them down like this. Then you flip this section down, rotate the foot, close this up to fill in that sort of hollowy space, and then fold that up, and that is a leg. So again, you bring this out, fold this down, rotate it, rotate the foot, close this up, rotate down, and there you go. And that's it. That's it. That's all he does. That's his transformation. It's really simple, but really clever at the same time, and I love doing it back and forth. It's very fun. And it's super unique too. Like, yeah, you're left with a little bit of backpack, but you can, you know, whoa, you can open that up. You can angle these to sort of look like wings a little bit and stick them off to the side. It doesn't break the silhouette at all. It's just fun. I like it. Yeah, it's a very unique transformation. The arms feel kind of Snapdragon-y, but all of the parts are new, and he looks nice. Gray, yeah, is a bit plain, but again, for the most part, I don't mind it. I like how there is an exposure of brown and red in this with bits of gold. They hide that very well in the alt mode. Like, you don't see any of that brown. I also dig the way they did the color breakup. That brown does feel like an actual undersuit. It's brown, like me. Head looks great, but I feel it's a bit too small for me. I wish it was a tiny bit bigger. But the way they painted it adds like shadow to the cheeks and stuff. That looks cool. I also really like the hands. Like, hands usually look fine, but here, I don't know, something about them just kind of looks nicer than the average hand on a Transformer. I think it's the way it's sculpted and how it catches the shadows. It just kind of looks a bit more real. It looks like a glove. He does have the wings poiking? That's a word. He does have the wings poking out at the back, but they can angle forward and back if you want to mimic like jetpack wings, even though his jetpack doesn't have wings in the show. And you can plug blast effects into it to look like he's blasting off. The extra stuff you pull off does do other, well, stuff in this mode. One is the gun, which I wish had the prongs at the front to look like his rifle. It's kind of a lame looking gun. And the dome becomes the pram, which can peg into the stand and sit behind him. And the big chunky blast effect can peg into the bottom to make it look like it's blasting off, which is kind of funny. Oh, and the cape, it pegs into the back. I wish it was a little bit longer, but for the whole stand thing, I completely get it. But I much prefer the other gun he comes with, the pistol that for this entire video up until this point has been stored on the hip. It holsters. Holsters. That's so cool. The peg is real small, but that's so that it sits in the legs in ship mode. But it sits in his hand fine, and now he has his little pistol thing. So to start with, the head is on a very nice ball joint. You get a lot of nice tilt on there. He can't really look up that far, but he can look down a little bit. And you have your full rotation. Shoulders, they are the trigger happy hot rod thing. Actually, these are like Snapdragon-y shoulders, but they go out that far, and then the needle bumps into the head. A little annoying. But they can do a full 360 degrees. This does get in the way a little bit, but it does move. So you have that. It does have a bicep rotation, 90 degrees of bend at the elbow. You do have the wrists on a ball joint, so they can swivel and open that up. They can swivel, there you go. He does have that really loose waist joint I talked about, but again, these are just on screws. I think mine's just not tight enough because I can actually see that it isn't tight enough, so I just need to fix that. Hips can go forward. They can go back really far. Then you can get them to go out that far. However, if the gun is holstered, it only goes out that far. But it is like, you're still getting a full splits with the gun there, so that's fine. He does have thigh rotation. Now the knees. The knees they're double jointed, so you have one joint here and then one joint at the top. However, the one joint at the bottom moves a lot easier than the one at the top. So like, it gives you a full knee bend anyways. It does look a little bit more strange, but you do have that extra like thing there to get it down. But it is a very funky knee, but it works. It does what it needs to do. And then the ankles can go down. You do have ankle pivot both ways, sort of, which is nice. So you can get him like on one foot and balanced properly. Like that took no effort. So I like that. I like the feet. They're actually quite good. And he doesn't have heels, but he stands very well. And it's because just how the legs and the feet are shaped and how big of a base he has to stand on. Even though he doesn't have heel spurs, he doesn't really need them. I love that. He's just fun to pose overall. Though I do find that when you're using like the legs and stuff, if you bend them at the top knee, which is technically the actual knee, you don't get a lot of leg travel up. But when you use the secondary knee, you get a little bit more. So I tend to use this one a lot more than I use the other one when it comes to posing things. And he can look a tiny bit awkward because of how the arms work. It's slightly unfortunate. I wish these could like compress in a little bit so they don't look as weird when you're moving them around. Because you're like, oh, this is such a great pose. Oh, he can't see now. I wish these could compress a little bit, but his posing is still fun. The stand can actually articulate at the base there, which is kind of funky. Also, I forgot to put this in the script, but this becomes his little Mandalorian hologram shield because the Mandalorians have hologram shields. So that's kind of cool. And because, you know, if you're a Star Wars fan first and foremost and you want to see how big this thing is, here's friggin' Black Series Bo-Katan. So you can see she's a fair amount shorter, stand up, than Mando. So yeah, back to the original question. Did they finally make a crossover toy that doesn't have crossover jank? Is this the best collaborative? Well, that part's subjective, but the first bit, yeah, I think so. I have my issues, but they are like regular toy issues, not, oh, it's a crossover figure, it's gonna have X problems. It feels nice, transforms nice, poses great, looks the part, has a nice bout of accessories, and they do a bunch of stuff, some of which are like multi-purpose. I love that. I really wish it came with a Baby Yoda. It's $55 though. It is expensive. Star Wars tax is a thing. Like it does kind of exist and makes Star Wars toys cost more. It's not actually called Star Wars tax. It's a licensing fee. But hear me out. These two Lego sets, hear me out, have roughly the same amount of parts, one minifig, and are small. Yet the Star Wars one is $3 more or so than the Lego Ninjago one. Star Wars toys just inherently cost more. Black Series toys have single elbows and knees, don't come with that many accessories, and cost the same as Needle Nose here, who has 3 toys technically and is a puzzle and a vehicle. The Star Wars one is just a lot more. So yeah, expensive brand, but it feels mostly worth it to me. I think a Grogu would have made this thing feel a lot more complete, but overall, I'm still happy with it and recommend it. I can still see a lot of Star Wars fans going for this thing because it is a very cool little novelty. But that's my look at the Mandalorian N1 Starfighter Transformer. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.